Anything that scares me, I have to do it. And sometimes I hate myself for it. I think your mind is so powerful more than anything. And if I believe that I can, then I will. I really started to just feel unbelievably happy, the best that I'd ever felt.
But then suddenly things changed. 37% burns, fighting for your life, 25 different surgeries were happening.
Yeah.
And if I'm not wrong, there was that moment where a lot of people are trying to make decisions, and then you stepped in to say, look, amputate my leg.
There's so many answers that I don't know. And so I've had to live my life for the past 7 years not knowing why this happened to me. Because from what I do know, it's a miracle that I'm alive. I should be dead.
Millie Pickles is a content creator, motivational speaker and presenter who's built a strong community through sharing her inspiring story as an amputee. Now, Millie's journey began back in 2017 following a life-changing event that left her fighting for a life in hospital. With 37% of her body burned and the loss of her right leg below the knee and 2 toes, Millie made a critical decision about what her future would hold. Millie is passionate about changing people's perceptions of disability, which she demonstrates through her unwavering resilience and her positive mindset. From conquering the world's toughest 400-metre race, the Red Bull 400, to completing the London Marathon and reporting as a presenter at the 2024 Paralympics in Paris, Millie continues to inspire as a para-athlete taking the world by storm. Millie's positivity has been recognised far and wide. She's been the cover star for Women's Running magazine, featured in Hello magazine, and spotlighted in Cosmopolitan's 2021 Positivity Index. Now join us today as we explore Millie's world and how her mindset and determination have shaped who she is today. Welcome to the show, Millie. How are you?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here. How are you?
Fantastic. No, always good to be in your presence. You've got positive energy, so looking forward to this conversation. But hey, Millie, firstly, thanks for being here. Looking forward to today's conversation. And as always, I know before the show, we just did the graph of your life right here. And I suppose without going into too much detail, but like, how was doing that exercise for you?
It was interesting because I didn't know where to place the line, hence why it's a bit of a strange line. Because at difficult moments in my life, I've actually felt really happy, even though it's technically the worst thing that's happened to me. And then the best times in my life, technically I should be on top of the world, and I'm actually really low. So that's why the line is looking funny.
It's interesting. Just before we started filming, we were talking about Hussein Manawer, friend. His book is called Life is Sad and Beautiful. And I feel like it always reminds you of this paradox, like you've just said. You can be in the highest moment, but also feel a sense of the opposite emotion, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think when you're like doing well in life, or you seem to have loads of things going your way, people are like, well, why are you sad? When you should be happy. And I don't think necessarily things that you're doing or achieving determine your happiness. So
okay,
I agree with that book.
All right, like it. Well, obviously it's part of this. I want to go back to the start of your life because there's a lot that I want to cover today. But can you bring to life, what is your earliest childhood memory? What's going on there?
My earliest memory was when I was 2 years old. And it's quite funny, really, because it's quite a negative one. And it's very similar to who I am today. I hate getting woken up when I'm asleep. Like, it's my pet hate. And I remember laying in my bed at 2 years old in my first ever home, and the church nearby, the bell was ringing, and it was really winding me up. And I was like, I just want to sleep. And yet it was just ringing. And that is my first ever memory.
Do you still hate being woken up? Yeah,
I absolutely hate it.
Okay.
My family know not to wake me up. I'm not good if I don't get my full sleep.
Well, speaking of family then, just paint a picture then. So obviously that's your earliest childhood memory, but growing up at home, what was family life like?
So I'm very lucky that my family life has always been really good. My parents' 40-year anniversary was actually yesterday. Wow. So they're still together, and I'm the youngest of 4.
Okay.
So I've got 2 older brothers, and then my sister, then me. And we're all very loud, big characters, but also different at the same time. So it was always a crazy house. And I was always trying to grow up with my siblings. So I've always been older than my age, shall we say. But lots of happy memories. And I absolutely loved school. And I know how privileged I am in my upbringing.
And so you're growing up, you're going to school, but what was your mindset like? We're going to come on to your mindset a little bit later of like Millie today. But Millie, when she was, let's say, 13 years old, what were you like?
It's interesting. I don't ever remember struggling with mental health. I never was sad. I was always really happy, and I was just always enthusiastic, just loving life.
Yeah.
I don't remember being sad ever. And so people always think now, oh, you know, how have you got your mindset? And have you always been like this? And I just don't even know, because I just was me.
Yeah. It's interesting though, because I think even when I was at university, you know, now there's so many words and it's so important to like talk about being anxious or different diagnoses. But back then it was just maybe stressed and you just crack on. But now I guess, do you think it's a good thing? There's so much more vocabulary out there. Obviously people talk about it a lot more.
I think it's a good thing to be aware, but also to, if you are just feeling stressed, not to make it so much bigger than it actually is, because then you'll freak yourself out more.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a balance that needs to be done with that. But actually, I just remembered as well, being as a child, I always knew my own mind. My mum, she said that, you know, you're a difficult child, but you'll be a good adult, because I wouldn't budge on my opinion. Like, I would be very much like, no, this is what I need to do. This is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And as a child, I always knew that I wanted to grow up and become a CEO of a company.
Okay.
So I was always very driven and had that strong mindset.
Yeah.
But I never really struggled with mental health. I just think through life and experiences, you really learn how strong you are.
Well, what influenced that then? So want to be a CEO of a company, that kind of like very headstrong nature. Is that like your mum, your dad, those around you? What drove that?
So my mum is a wonderful, incredible woman. She can do anything and everything. She says, I'm going to do something, she'll do it. She'll figure out a way. And even if it would take weeks, she would do it. She'd be up all night, and she had her own business. Okay. And I would wake up sometimes in the night to just go and get some water or whatever. Yeah. And she'd be up at 4 a.m. working, because if she said that she was going to send like the curtains for a deadline, she would not budge on that. She sticks to her word. And so I think watching my mum work, as well as my dad, to be honest, he had his own company and he is so incredibly smart. And I think just being around that environment, I learned a lot from them.
Yeah.
And I think environment is so important. And I've noticed over the years how much it impacts me. So I think as well, absorbing that. And then being the youngest of 4, I learned from my siblings' mistakes. Yeah. So I was in the lucky position to just try and do anything and everything.
And so you're growing up with a family, obviously very entrepreneurial family, kind of very driven, seeing your mum like working very hard. Then you go off to university.
Yes.
So tell us a bit more what you studied, what kind of drove that decision?
So I studied marketing because I thought, I don't know what I want to do. I want to go to university, and that seems like a good one to do. There was nothing that I was really that passionate about. At school, I loved languages and English and sport. But I just thought, let me just do marketing. Really random. And then I went to Bournemouth University purely because they had good placement years. And I wanted to get that experience to get my foot through the door. So I went there and studied straight marketing.
Nice. Which I think a placement year, I mean, it's so underrated and it's so important to have that kind of year in industry. And I suppose fast tracking a little bit to August 2017 then. Just paint a picture. What was life like in August 2017? What's going on?
So I was on my placement year, and it's funny because I had 8 interviews for my placement year. And the first one I went for, I got.
Nice.
And I thought, I don't know if I should take it because it's my first one. I feel like I could do better. So I decided to turn it down. And then I just kept going through the interviews thinking, oh gosh, why did I turn that down? And then eventually I found out why, because I got a placement in marketing at Chelsea Football Club. Nice. And I was over the moon. I was so happy, so excited. So when I started in August, as you can see on the graph, that's when I really started to just feel unbelievably happy. And like, I think the best that I'd ever felt. And it was a great experience. And I was there for 2 months to the date that I ended up having an accident.
And obviously going to that date, which is at the end of September of 2017, and just to understand it a little bit more, because, and correct me if I'm wrong, that morning you picked up Krispy Kremes.
Yes,
right?
You've done your research. I love it.
You told your mum, and I think you were talking about how life was really good at that point. But then suddenly things changed.
Yeah.
What happened?
So that morning I woke up and I was so happy, and I decided to buy the whole office Krispy Kremes, and I was prepping for a Man City Chelsea game the next day because I was meant to be working at the match. And so, working the whole day. And then it got to the evening and my manager said, oh, Millie, you've not been out for drinks with us, come for drinks. And I'm not much of a drinker anyway. So I went for 2. Yeah. And then after that is when my accident happened, essentially. And that's the most I've ever shared about my accident, ever, to the public anyway. And what happened with my accident is so messed up. And I don't remember all of it. And there's bits that I do remember. And it's strange because it's like there's so many answers that I don't know. I just don't have the answers. And so I've had to live my life for the past 7 years not knowing why this happened to me. And sometimes I cry and sometimes I don't, and I'm fine to talk about it. And for me, it's horrible because I'd love to share with you right now what I do remember. Yeah. But I just feel like the best space for me to do that is to write a book. Yeah. And it's going to be the most unbelievably traumatic thing to write. But I feel like I need to do that.
Yeah.
So that's the most that I've ever shared, which still isn't much. No. But I guess fast forward to the next morning and my manager called me because he was like, where are you meant to be? Like, you meant to be at work. Where are you? So my mum had to answer and tell him that, I've had my accident. And originally the surgeons thought that I was going to lose both my legs right at the top. And eventually I just lost half of one. And my family and I were jumping for joy because it was like, oh my God, I've got only half a leg missing rather than 2. And it was crazy how in such a short amount of time things can change so fast and you can be jumping around just because, well, I wasn't obviously, but for losing a limb. But for me, my accident changed me because I just feel and felt so unbelievably grateful to be alive, because from what I do know, I should be dead. And it's a miracle that I'm alive. Yeah. And that is why I've been so positive this whole time, because I just feel like I've been given another chance. Yeah. And that I want to, because help people essentially. And, working at Chelsea, being a CEO is not a goal for me anymore because I want to make an impact on the world. Yeah. And
No, thank you. I know it's really not easy to kind of share these moments because I know they come back and so many memories flood back. And one thing I do know is that you've got a very positive mindset, but back then you were in hospital, I think it was, 2.5 months.
Yes, yeah.
37% burns, 2 weeks, of fighting for your life, 25 different surgeries were happening.
Yeah.
And if I'm not wrong, there was that moment where a lot of people are trying to make decisions and then you stepped in to say, look, amputate my leg.
Yes.
What made you step up in that moment and make a decision just so clearly?
So when I first saw my parents, it was, just after my accident happened. And they came into the room and I remember I was covered up completely and they couldn't see anything that was going on underneath. Sure. And it's so ironic that I've always had a fear of death and yet I'm the one that nearly died. Yeah. And so that's the first thing I said to them, like, oh my God, I love you. And I can't believe that it's me in this position. And then after that, I said to my parents, I don't even care if I have to lose my leg right now. I'm in that much pain. And I think because I knew how much pain I was in, subconsciously, I just thought this needs to happen. And nobody had mentioned amputation to me. And no one mentioned it for 2 weeks. And I was just doing the debridement surgeries. And that's where they take away dead muscle. Okay. And because I was internally burning, it kept on burning. So it felt like I was being electrocuted for 2 weeks straight, which was so painful. God. And I just thought, this can't be right. And I saw my leg and I thought, this is not in a great way. So I think I was lucky in the fact that I had 2 weeks to mentally prepare myself for the worst. And so when all the surgeons came into the room and were weighing up the pros and cons of me keeping my leg or not, that's why I interrupted. And I said, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but my leg needs to go. I've seen it and it's not in a great way. And I think, I was able to prepare mentally, which really helped me accept my situation.
Gosh. And you just said there as well about a fear of death. That's before this happened. Oh, yeah. Where's that stem from?
I have no idea. I used to wake up loads in the night crying that my family were not going to be here anymore. Yeah. And I've always been fearful of it. And it's something that I still am quite fearful of, but I'm trying to fight that fear because really a lot of people say that, it's just you're living in the physical world, and then when you die, your spirit goes and you're actually living a better life because you're not attached to the physical world. And so there's nothing actually to be scared of. And it's such a like normal part of, human nature that why be scared of something that's inevitably going to happen? But, I'm big on manifestation. And I do think, did I accidentally manifest nearly dying because I was so scared of it? I hope not. But with everything that I'm doing, because of that fear of nearly dying and then nearly actually dying, it's made me just want to live the best life that I possibly can.
And what was that like then? So you're in hospital, and then there's obviously a day that comes around where they say, look, go home. Of course, you're back and forth, I'm sure. But just that day, do you remember leaving the hospital?
Oh, no, I didn't leave the hospital. So it was the first week I went there. So I went to 3 different hospitals. Okay. First one was St. George's, and that was my first emergency surgery. Then I went to Chelsea Hospital for a week in the burns unit. And that's when the surgeons came in and said about, losing your leg or not. And then I had my leg amputated, and then I moved to St. Mary's Hospital, and I was there for a further 2 months having more surgeries because I also lost my big toe and some other toes on my foot and had other injuries. So it was a long 2.5 months of just a lot of surgeries.
But then after those 2.5 months, I guess there was a day when they eventually said, look, you can go home now. Right, obviously you're back and forth a little bit, but then I guess you had to learn how to walk.
I actually cried when I left the hospital because it was my second home. And even to this day, I actually miss being in hospital, and I miss...
Careful what we manifest.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
But it's just, but it wouldn't be the same now because it's not the same people. But it was like my second home, and I loved every single person. And I think my accident was always meant to happen to me. And I'm grateful that it did happen because it wouldn't have put me on this path, and I wouldn't have met all the people that I've met. Even you right now, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And I feel extremely lucky because of that.
Wow. And it is so much about your mindset that I want to dig into a little bit more, that clearly stems from whether that's your mum and events over life. Clearly your mum's got this go-getting attitude as well. But, many people, because there's no right or wrong way to deal with these things, you could crumble. It's very, very difficult. Life events happen. They kind of send us under. You can't see light at the end of the tunnel. You did, but not only did you kind of keep on going, you then went on, you ran recently, I think it's at the Red Bull 400,
yes.
Which for context, that's one of the hardest races in the world in Slovenia, right? And 75 degrees.
Yes.
But also I read that, having had your leg amputated, doctors advised, don't, run. I think it was on like bumps and hills. You were like, no, I'm going to run this.
Yeah, that's the worst thing an amputee can do. And I was like, sign me up.
But talk me through like this decision-making process. Like what made you decide I'm going to do it?
So for me, anything that scares me, I have to do it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I hate myself for it because I don't want to do things and I go and do it because I think life is too short. Yeah. And when something scares you, that's where the growth is going to happen. Yeah. So I got shown this event and got asked if I wanted to do it. And the video freaked me out. It's the world's steepest 400-meter race. Yeah. So it's just awful. And so because I was scared of it, I thought, oh gosh, okay, that's a yes then. And what's funny is that I couldn't actually walk for 3 months, a couple months before I did it. And I did about 6 days training. And I just thought to myself, my mind will carry me through this. I think your mind is so powerful more than anything. And if I believe that I can, then I will. And that's my whole ethos. I think if you stick your mind to something, you believe in yourself and you don't give up, you'll always achieve it. And so that was an example for me to show myself that, I believe this and I'm going to show myself that I am that person as well. So I think it's so important to do things that challenge you and remind yourself that you are capable. Yeah. Otherwise, it's so easy to just lie to yourself and think, oh, no, I can't. I did that 6 years ago. I'm not that person anymore and I'm struggling now. Just constantly prove to yourself that you are capable. Yeah. So that is what led me to do it. And it was one of the best things I could have done.
Wow. But let's say, Millie, let's say there's somebody listening who's going through a tough time at the moment now, whether that is mentally, physically, or otherwise. And you think, look, Millie's amazing. She's very inspiring. But I can't find the energy. I just don't know what to do. I'm just really struggling. What might you say to them?
I think it's important to sit with your emotions. And if you are struggling, there's always a reason why. And I think for me, I am so set on journaling as much as I can, because whenever I think that I'm sad, I think there's an issue. But actually, when I journal and I constantly question why I'm feeling a certain way, just why, the actual problem has got nothing to do with what I thought it was. And I'm a very logical person. So I would recommend to do that, figure out your emotions. And then once you've got the information that you actually need, to then be like, right, what can I do about it?
Yeah.
And it's all about channeling your mind to, do the right things by yourself, for yourself. Because like, for example, my accident, when I was in the first 2 weeks, I wasn't thinking like, well, the whole 7 years I've not done this, but the most important time is the first 2 weeks. I wasn't thinking, why me? Because if I did think why me, then I'm going to find a load of reasons as to why I'm the most awful person and deserve to lose my leg. Whereas if I think, which I did, what can I do now? Focus on each day as it comes. What can I do to make myself feel better? You're going to find answers that help you a lot more. So I think it's just about figuring out what the actual problem is and doing something about it and taking action. And even if you can't see the long, big picture, it doesn't actually matter. Just do what you can each day and the bigger picture will look after itself. Because I would never in a million years have thought that I'd be where I am today if I didn't act in that way,
No, it is. And I remember a therapist said to me, anxiety hates a plan. And whenever I feel that overwhelm, like you said, it's why, and get to the root cause and then putting a plan around it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise there's so many emotions and I feel so many people run from them.
Yes.
So if you just sit down and be, even though it could be a scary place, and it will help you in the long run, right?
The thing when people say, choose your hard. Like it's hard to be feeling, rubbish and struggling with anxiety, but it's also hard to try and fight through those feelings and choose the hard that is going to help you in the long run.
It's tricky, right?
Yeah.
But do you still have days today when you struggle?
So it's interesting because I genuinely never used to struggle.
Yeah. Like
I did not. And on the graph, you can see that I'm 27 now and I've got high highs and really low lows. And I actually feel like I'm struggling now more than I did when I lost my leg. And you might think, why? Like the losing my leg was so traumatic, but I haven't quite figured out why I'm feeling so low, to be honest, at the moment. And I'm trying to, and that's okay. I'm not always going to get my answers straight away, but I think that's life. Sometimes it doesn't make sense and you don't know why, but as long as you're doing your best and you're surrounding yourself with good people and trying, that's all that you can really ask for.
And what is that like? I know, don't want to go too personal on you now, but
like, go for it.
What kind of feelings are you feeling? Because we're talking about emotions and sitting them. Is that, 'cause I saw recently that we can feel up to 34,000 emotions, which is just fascinating in this research that was done. Yeah. And I actually did it with my other half over New Year's. We're looking at this feelings wheel. And, sometimes we think we're sad, but actually we're angry, or we think we're angry, but we're fearful. Or like what emotions kind of come up for you at the moment, just generally?
I feel like I'm so anxious. Okay. I never used to be anxious. And I'm like, well, this is strange. Yeah. And so I just feel on edge more about things. And I'm really trying to figure out why. Because as a result, I feel sad. And I don't feel like I am the person that I used to be. And so I'm thinking, am I just a different person now? And that's just who I am because we evolve.
Yeah.
Or am I not actually fully okay? And who I know I've always been is actually who I am. I'm just going through a bit of a lull. I don't know. But I have worked so unbelievably hard this year. I have grafted like crazy and I love work. And I think maybe I'm feeling anxious because I haven't got an equal balance of physical, mental and social. And I think those are three strong pillars to help you look after yourself properly.
Yeah. And
so I think because I'm lacking in some of those, maybe that's why I'm not feeling, quite my best. I'm not at an equilibrium. Yeah. And so I need to figure that out and I'm sure that I'll get there. But it's just, I think knowing and having that trust within yourself that you will be able to get through something. Yeah. And there's always light at the end of the tunnel.
There isn't. No, thank you for being so open because I think it's so easy these days, especially social media, which I know you do a lot of. People can look at one side and people don't share the full kind of side of everything. And thank you for doing so because people look over this summer, you've had an amazing summer and 2024. I don't know where to start. We'll start with running the London Marathon. 2024, you were like, I'm going to enter this. How did that come about?
So after the Red Bull 400, I had this burst of energy for just wanting to do another challenge. And I'd always wanted to run a marathon and it just felt the right time. So I thought, let me just do it. And do you know what? I actually really missed training for a marathon. It was so much fun. And for me, I'm constantly trying to find something that will challenge me mentally. And even the marathon didn't really do that for me. And I was gutted about it. I was like, why am I not struggling? Like physically my
Yeah.
body was completely breaking down. At 33 kilometers, my foot was bleeding through my shoe. And I had surgery when I was in hospital on that foot. And if it didn't go well, I would have had that leg amputated. And then that scar was the one that was breaking down. So it was quite bad. But what the challenge is for me is my physical and my mental are not aligned. And my mind is so strong and I can go, go, go. So at the marathon, I did not want to stop running. I was like, I can get to the end. Yeah. But my body was like, Millie, you need to slow down for us over here. So I stopped and then I had to walk the last 8K. So yeah, it feels like I'm constantly looking for something to challenge me mentally. And nothing really.
Okay, let's have a look at that then. So you'll say yes when things scare you. Have you got any phobias?
Death. And I nearly did that one. No, snakes.
Me too.
Oh my God. And they're the worst. And rats, the tails, I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
They are the worst.
Okay, so let's unpick the snakes thing.
Yeah.
Right. How do you feel if there's a snake in here right now?
You wouldn't see me. Yeah. I'd be so far out.
Have you ever put one around your neck?
No.
Okay.
No. I think I'm traumatized because a friend of mine, she had 72 animals in her house. Really quite random. And one of them was a snake. And one day I was tapping at the glass window, and it just turned to me and went, Rah! And I jumped so far out my skin. And I just thought, oh my God. And then I used to see them feeding the snakes rats. Maybe that's why I hate both.
Okay.
So that's, my trauma.
And also like physically, because you also love sports and you have a passion for that as well, right?
Yeah.
So I suppose it's like the marathon, the Red Bull 400. And weren't you involved in the Tour de France?
I cycled the last leg in the Tour de France.
You did. Look at this. How was that?
That was so much fun. I did kind of cheat with that one though.
No, I know what you're going to say. Go on.
I used an e-bike. Yeah. But the reason is because I just thought, and this is growth from me, I don't want to put my body at jeopardy just to be like, oh, I can do this. Like, I know I can do it mentally. I just want to have fun and look at the views. Yeah. So, oh well. And it was so much fun. I absolutely love doing that.
Yeah. And another thing I just want to ask you about is, an important topic in society today is around body image.
Yes.
And bodies come in different shapes, sizes, all are beautiful. Have you, how have you felt with like body acceptance, with like body changes? Has it not been a thing? Is it a thing?
It's interesting because so after my accident, I was pretty immobile for like a year and a bit. And my focus, because I'm such a goal person, my focus was to get back to university and finish my final year of the first.
Yeah.
So that was my focus. I wasn't really doing much else. And I gained a lot of weight and I got a binge eating disorder because when I was in hospital, I couldn't really eat to start with. And so I lost a lot of weight and my surgeon said, we need you to eat a lot. And so I took the reins of that and I was eating so much McDonald's, Starbucks every single day. And that kind of just continued on. And so I gained a lot of weight. And it was strange because I didn't recognize myself when I looked in the mirror because I technically looked different. Yeah. Also, I had half a limb missing and my hair, majority of it had fallen out due to trauma. So when I looked in the mirror, I looked like a completely different person to the Millie that I knew. However, I didn't feel any different. And I think it's because my mindset, I'd learned so much about myself from going through all that trauma that I felt good mentally, but my body was suffering. And it was just this weird misalignment. And so I wish I could say, I accepted that, but I did accept it without even thinking about it. Like I didn't have to try to accept it. It was just, I am who I am still. I'm Millie on the inside and that's what matters.
Yeah. But was there a turning point there that you mentioned? They said you got a binge eating disorder. You looked in the mirror and then did you say, right, enough is enough? Or was it a gradual phase out? What happened?
So this is good because I think, we all have our setbacks. That was mine. And it was a year. And some people might have a setback for 12 years. Yeah. It completely varies for each person. But what's important is, when are you going to make your comeback? And for me, it was, right, I've got my first and my degree. Now it is time and I'm ready for this. And so I just thought, right, I need to lose the weight, but in a healthy way, focus on my nutrition and get back to the Millie that I remember being. And so within 6 months I'd done that. And then, 6 months later, I was a Gymshark athlete. Yeah. So it was quite a stark contrast.
But again, it just shows that's down to your mind, right? You like, what's your mind like today? Do you have a word with yourself? Like, come on, Millie. Like, do you speak to yourself?
I do. Yeah. I used to do affirmations all the time. And that's something I definitely want to get back into because I think they're so important. And I do naturally speak to myself and I'm like, come on, even if I'm feeling really low, I try and shake out how I'm feeling and just be like, you've got this. But I think it's important to have those positive thoughts in your mind because, you know, your thoughts turn into actions eventually. So I'm big on positive self-talk.
And on that, you already answered a question of mine earlier, which was, I was going to ask you that people say things happen for a reason. And you said my accident happened for a reason. I'm glad it did. For a lot of people listening, they might think, wow, she really think that? How could you think that? I
think it was always meant to happen to me. And I know that I am strong enough to deal with it. And when I first lost my leg, I was looking for amputees online and I literally couldn't find any. And so the fact that I was able to go on and build this community, I just think I'm actually that person that it was meant to happen to, so I can help other people that aren't necessarily going to take it in the best way possible. And I'm so glad that I am that support for others. That makes me happy, you know?
You are, and it's been amazing watching your journey of being such a role model because I think it's such a responsibility and you're doing such wonderful things. I saw over the summer you were with Hello Magazine having a shoot done. How was that?
I know. Oh my God, that is one of my career highlights. That was the coolest shoot ever. The interview was so good, the loveliest lady, and then the shoot, it was so chilled and they really just let me be me. And the styling was incredible. Just everything about it was superb. And it was originally going to be a double page spread and it turned into 5 pages. And I don't know why, but I'm not complaining. And I just felt like that was a great moment for me, but also for disabled people to see someone that looks like them. And the fact that disabled people and like other groups are having more awareness and people are showcasing different types of people makes me so unbelievably happy. And the fact that I have a part to play in that is just the best feeling in the world.
It's amazing. And I think not just a part, but a major part. 'Cause then you went to Paris for the Paralympics, right? And you're reporting there as well.
Yes.
Like, so, you know, just, I guess it's gone from what a change in life, right?
Oh my gosh.
To one day going on your placement year to suddenly you're in this incredible space. As you're saying, if it wasn't for your accident, it wouldn't have taken you down this path.
Thing is, everything that I am doing right now, I manifested it. I really did. And I trained for 2 years in 100-meter sprints because I wanted to get to the Paralympics. Because, you know, we mentioned about my surgeons coming into the room and weighing up the pros and cons of keeping my leg. When they all left the room, I turned to my parents, I had a few tears, and I said, you know, at least I can be in the Paralympics now. Because in that moment, I was trying to find something I could do that I couldn't do before and trying to have a positive shift in my mindset, you know? And so that's why I trained for 2 years. And even though I didn't end up pursuing that, the fact that I went to the Paralympics was crazy because I used to say to myself every single day, I'll be in 2024 Paris Paralympics. And I never expected it to be as a presenter. But I loved every moment and I'm so glad that I did that and had that opportunity.
Love it. It's amazing. You mentioned there, like everything you've got, you manifested. And I'm a massive believer in my vision boards and visualizing everything. Do you do a vision board?
I used to. Not anymore. I just like to picture it in my mind. I found that vision boards were quite limiting for me because I would just take it at face value. Whereas if I do like a visualization meditation, then the questions and the thoughts open my mind up broader. And things come to me that I wouldn't have necessarily thought if I was looking at the vision board.
I know I've had to this year, I think at the halfway mark, adapt it a little bit. And I think it's knowing to your point that actually it's not static. Life is ever evolving. And you've got to keep that moving as well, right? Now, I don't think we mentioned there around disability, talking about society, we mentioned body image, but also disability. Have you ever personally faced any discrimination?
All the time. All the time. I think because I'm young, people just assume I'm not disabled. And it's really frustrating. I get people coming up to me all the time when I'm parking disabled, telling me off, saying I'm not allowed to park there. People have come and knocked on my window and had a go at me whilst I'm literally mid-putting my prosthetic leg on. I'm like, can you not? And I am very glad that I'm a confident person and I will say, no, this is wrong. Because people who have invisible disabilities can't be like, actually I am, look, and have that ha moment for themselves. So I try and do it on behalf of the wider population of disabled people to really make sure that nobody ever does that again. But it is barbaric, to be honest. And I've had people chase up after me in the streets. And I remember once this guy, I thought I dropped something because he was like, excuse me. And so I turned around and he was like, what happened to your leg? I'm just thinking, really? I find it crazy that people don't understand that that's not okay.
Yeah.
Because if that was the first time that I'd ever worn shorts and I was feeling insecure, and then someone comes and runs up and says that to me, that might just completely put me off shorts for the rest of the time. And I get a lot of amputees coming to me saying, how would you have confidence to wear shorts? I'm so scared. And so there are so many people that are still not okay with being disabled, and people that act like that are really not very helpful. And I just find it crazy that people act that way.
So true. And I think with that, I mean, that's obviously a random stranger. You shouldn't just be getting in your personal space anyway. And it's like, it's often not what you say, it's how you say it as well. Where the intent behind it is actually, I'm genuinely curious, I want to learn.
Yeah.
But also don't just run after somebody like that.
Tone is so important.
Yeah.
Because if somebody's nice, then I'm going to respond and be nice.
Exactly.
But sometimes, even though I am confident and I like to let people know, no, sometimes it throws me off. And depending on my mood, I might not be okay to deal with that. Yeah. And it's just really not very nice. And it is tough though, because obviously it's not right to run after somebody, but it's hard, I do think, for able-bodied people to try and get it right, because every single disabled person is so different that you can't possibly know if somebody's offended by you calling them disabled or not. And so I think the best thing for people to do is just, when you're speaking to somebody disabled, treat them like a normal human being. Don't talk over their heads, and ask them how they like to be referred to or whatever it might be. And then they feel respected and heard and listened to.
Yeah, so true. Whilst we're on here, something that really annoys me is when I've worked or seen hotels where wheelchair users go into a disabled toilet and the mirror is high.
Yes.
And just the people designing these have not brought in the opinion of those who are actually going to use it. Infuriates me.
Yeah. Do you know what is infuriating? My flat that I live in.
Yeah.
To be fair, I should have done more research myself on it, but I use a prosthetic leg. So I thought, this is fine. I didn't think about when I'm in a wheelchair. And so since being in a wheelchair in my building, you go through the first door because you can ring up, but there's no phone in the second section. So I have to come down every single time when somebody wants to come in and open the doors for them. And then there's various flats that I viewed and I wasn't told which ones were disabled, even though I asked. I have been in some of the disabled ones because a friend of mine has one, and it's not laid out for a disabled person. There's just so many different things that there's so many barriers that you have to face, and it's so tiring when you're disabled. You just want to be able to go out and live like normally and just like able-bodied people do. And it's not that disabled people can't, it's just that they're working in a world that doesn't work for them.
Exactly. But it is that. And I think there's minor adjustments that places can make. I remember I was going out for dinner with a friend of mine. She's a wheelchair user. We're trying to plan a place to go. And there's this restaurant. And they're like, oh, no, we can't. We've got a step. But surely it's very easy to just make an adjustment. But the point is, one is the human thing. That's the right thing to do. But two, commercially, they're missing out on a massive demographic of the market of the number of disabled people around the world. So,
but why is it I can't? How can we?
Exactly. Not everybody has a solution mindset like you, sadly. But hopefully they'll watch this and take one on board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, I think there's an education piece that needs to be done.
Yeah.
Because if people don't know, don't understand, then how can they help make change?
Yeah.
And like when I did my PT course, I was looking forward to it because I wanted to educate myself more on fitness and other disabled people. Because obviously there's so many different disabilities. I don't know everything about everything. And when I tell you it's the tiniest paragraph on a page for disabled people in sport, I was like, are you joking? And when I first lost my leg and I was trying to get into the gym, I was struggling because I had no idea how to do anything and no one really knew anything. So I had to work with a coach that as I was learning, he was learning. And I just think there needs to be more that's done.
Yeah.
So that's something that I'm thinking about in terms of business. How can I help
disabled
people in sport? But yeah.
Yeah, massive topic. Well, I'm sure that will be a success. Whatever you put your name to is going to be great. So I look forward to seeing it. Now, just before we wrap up today, and obviously in a moment, what I want to do is share what I believe is your superpower on the show. So with all of our guests as well, and this is on the spot for me quite a lot, is understand who's in front of me, understand their life story and what makes them who they are, both in the good times, but also in the difficult times that keeps you going. So I've got something in mind, but before I go there and share that with you, I've got a few quick fire questions for you. Right. So, but I've been told that my quick fire is not that quick fire. Right. I've got Francis on here and we had like a 5-minute break. Okay. What's something on your bucket list that might surprise people?
Surprise people. I feel like I'm quite an open book, so I find that hard to... I think this isn't surprising, but kind of is. Jumping out of a plane.
Okay.
Because I am fearful of death, why would I do something that could cause me to die? But then it's also unsurprising because I like to do challenging things.
Fair. Okay. Well, second one, if you were going to set a Guinness World Record, what would you set and why?
A fun one I would like to do, which I've thought about, is balancing on one leg with my eyes closed. How long could I do it for? Because I have got incredible balance since losing my leg, because you have to, and you're hopping around everywhere.
Yeah.
I would love to know how long I could do it for and try and beat whatever the record is.
Wow.
I have looked it up before, but I can't remember what it is.
Okay, I can connect you to some people after this as well. Hopefully they'll be watching it. It's Guinness World Records. Yeah, it's great. We can check it out on the system.
Because I think doing a fun one, I like doing big challenges, but I feel like add a bit of fun in there,
Yeah, like it.
Yeah.
Okay, and the final one is, if I could give you an unlimited supply of one thing for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I'm not very quick at this either, am I?
That's all right, don't worry.
I think health, like happiness and health for all of my loved ones. All of the world. We all deserve to be happy and healthy,
So true. My mum said to me recently, I was saying, Mum, time's our most important asset. And she was like, well, no, you're missing one. It's health.
Yeah.
Because without health, you don't have any time, right?
Yes. So powerful. I also think health is one thing that we neglect. Not neglect, sorry. I think health is one thing that we don't necessarily appreciate. And it's only when that you are unwell that you just are desperate to feel okay again.
Yeah. So true. And I try to have those days where I'm just well and to be like, I'm grateful for feeling well.
Yes.
Rather than when it comes to the days and you're like, why am I not well?
Yeah.
Yeah, so important. Now, right, obviously been getting to know you a little bit, and I was stuck between a few different words, if I'm honest with you. And there's so many ways that we could go. Sure, we could go positive and optimistic. Yeah, great. Or determined and tenacious, resilient. And I think all those words make up something that's far bigger for me, if you like, that without those attributes, you can't have this. And I think this is something that clearly in your good times, it keeps you focused, influenced by your mum, but also in the difficult times, it's got you through. Don't normally do 2-word superpowers, but I feel like it's your mental strength. Now, you've got you've mentioned this quite a few times now, my positivity, I just won't give up, I will keep on going. What does that mean to you, mental strength?
I think mental strength, like I said, is the most important thing you can have, because that's going to determine your happiness and whether you can get through something or not. And I think resilience is a skill that everybody should work on, and it's not something that's just given. And I think to be mentally strong is something you have to always practice. Even if you're sat in traffic and you're hating it, that's an opportunity to practice mental strength. And yeah, it's just so powerful and helps me get through life and know that I can get through anything. And it's something that can be improved. Everybody can work on it. And it's not something someone has or doesn't have. Everyone can achieve it.
And let's say somebody's listening now, don't know, Sandra, Mohammed, whoever's watching right now, right? And they're thinking, that's great, but how can I be a bit more mentally strong? Where might you say they start? Like, what could they do?
Push yourself out of your comfort zone. If you're in the safe zone, you're not going to know how strong you are because you're just chilling.
Yeah.
That's it in a nutshell. Just push yourself to do something that you never thought that you could do. See how you feel. And I bet you'll believe in yourself way more, and it will spur you on to do more things. I think as humans, we all want to have a purpose and we need to be challenged. And if we were to do that, you'd feel a lot happier.
Yeah.
I'm so passionate about that. I really do believe that if you believe in yourself and you take action, you can achieve anything. Yeah. So just show yourself that you can, rather than tell yourself that you can't when you don't even know because you haven't even tried. So
true. And you said this before, words to this effect, whether you believe you can or believe you can't, you're probably right?
Yes.
And it's just people need to know they are able, they are capable. But I was reading this book recently about like your mind and thinking. But if people tell themselves every day, I'm not worthy and I'm not good enough, you mentioned there your thoughts become your actions, right?
Yes.
Flip it.
Absolutely flip it. Anytime you think a negative thought, think of the opposite.
Yeah.
And when you have the awareness and you start thinking, okay, I'm going to write down every negative thought that I have and flip it on a piece of paper, you'll see how many times you're mean to yourself. And don't worry if you are, because if you're consciously trying and flipping that narrative, you're being proactive and eventually you're going to stop thinking those things.
Yeah.
It's not easy though. You have to really work at it. And I've really worked at it. And eventually it will just become second nature. You might have times that you might fall off the wagon with it and you need to get back on. But I think when you continually try and change the narrative in your mind, you eventually do believe in yourself and become that person. Yeah. And I know that people say affirmations, don't work because I don't believe it. It's not about whether you believe it or not. You need to say it enough to yourself that it goes into your subconscious mind. And that doesn't happen overnight very quickly. And I think people want a quick fix to be like, I love myself. Why don't I love myself? But just be consistent. It will get to your subconscious mind and then take action and do things that show yourself that you are strong and you are capable, rather than just lying to yourself all the time, believing that you're not, because you can. And you've got one life. So just go and live it to your best. So passionate about it.
Well, Millie, no, I can tell you are. And it's also like important to be around people like that as well. I'm sure you're around those people. I've got one final question before we wrap up. Let's go forward, 100 years. Millie Pickles, what do you want to be remembered for?
Do you know what? Nobody's actually ever asked me that question before. And it's a good one. I think I want to be remembered for being a good, kind person that had a lot of love to give and wanted to help change the way for disabled people and shape people's minds into believing in themselves more. That's the legacy that I want to leave.
Powerful. Well, I think you're already doing that already, day by day, and I can't wait for, I'm sure, what you'll achieve in decades ahead, and we'll all be rooting for you. So, no, thank you so much. You've taught me so much. I'm sure people will learn a lot as well, so keep doing what you're doing.
Amazing. Thank you so much as well.
Thank you.
Lovely chatting with you.
A huge thank you to you, our listeners, for being part of our community by watching, subscribing, liking, and also leaving comments on all of our videos. It truly means so much to us, and it helps us to grow the show, making it possible for us to invite even more amazing guests for future seasons. And if there's someone you'd love to see on the show, do let us know. Your suggestions help us bring on incredible guests that you really want to hear from. Feel free to leave those in the comments or send a message directly to me on my social channels at Gyan Power. We'd love to hear from you. Have you found the episodes? How have they made you feel? Have they inspired you, challenged you in any which way? Share your experience. We always love to hear your stories. And we've got some super exciting plans ahead. And with your support, we can take the Superpower podcast to even greater heights. So if you're enjoying the show, please hit that follow button on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you're listening. And hey, if you're watching on board your in-flight entertainment, remember to follow us when you land. Or if you've got Wi-Fi in the sky, hit that follow or subscribe button now. For now, thank you once again for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode of the Superpower Podcast with me, Gyan Power.